right. I want to go to Cyrus's other super chat, and this just teed me up so perfectly. Does your guest think Trump running is a mistake? If Trump had the McCain voters, Arizona would have been his. I don't think traditional conservatives want the theatrics this time. Trump fatigue. Well, we now know that Trump is running again. And I have to admit, like, I watched the announcement live on my channel yesterday. I was a little shocked, quite frankly, at how lackluster the announcement was. It was almost like Trump tried to do this huge buildup and then he just kept talking and saying, honestly, really ill advised things. And then it was all of a sudden he's like, and I'm running for president. Yay. And it didn't even seem like his heart was in it. So, what do you think about Trump running for president again, and how that might play out?
Well, to address one part of the of what was asked before I get to the big thing,
Ah,
more traditional conservatism is not going to win today. That's the bottom line. It might do better in Arizona, although then you'd alienate a lot of the MAGA voters, so it might not do better there. But it would win back the McCaniacs. But nationally, that dog is not going to hunt. That's the bottom line. There is no longer a demographic for whether you define conservatism as being McCainism, Shrubism, that's George W. Bushism, or Reaganism. There really isn't a George H.W. Bushism. He was so inconsequential. But regardless of how you define it, there really is no appetite for traditional conservatism now. The GOP before Trump came along was something, even though it had its U.S. House majority, it had no vision. It was rudderless. It was frustrating. It focused on issues that the donors, very, very influential, wealthy donors, wanted, and it shafted basically a lot of other people who just voted for it because the Democrats were that much worse. That was the Republican Party before Trump. Now, since he's come along, he has made the GOP much more relatable to its voters and much more accountable to its voters. That's why so many Republicans have lost their primaries in recent years. That's not a coincidence. It really has made the GOP much more responsive to the interests of those who vote for it, which is a good thing. I think that traditional conservatism simply does not have a base for itself in national elections. In some states, it might. But nationally, I think that's just gone. Now, in terms of Trump running, I think it's an inevitable thing. I think he's probably next to DeSantis. He would be I'm quite sure that he'd be the better candidate. I say he's probably the best the GOP has. Unless you count Glenn Youngkin. But I'm not sure that any Republican now would be able to win because of the mail balloting rules in key swing states and changing demographics. That's the thing. I don't think that the GOP is a Trump problem. I think the GOP is a demographic problem and a vote by mail problem. And Trump, I would say, is probably best suited, aside from Youngkin, to win in 24, even though I don't think any of these people will be favored. I can't stress that enough. And I certainly don't think that, say, someone like DeSantis would fare better than Trump would. DeSantis, he is my governor. I've known about him since he ran for Congress 10 years ago. I knew about him long before most of his present fans ever had any conception of who he was. DeSantis is a political chameleon. He does go with whatever he believes the current thing among the conservative base is. And he's not someone who is as forthright as Trump. And that means he's not able to relate to as many atypical voters as Trump does, whether you're talking about marginal Republicans or, far more importantly, independents in places like the Rust Belt, which the GOP absolutely has to win. And also, DeSantis has done many good things for Florida in terms of the environment. He's actually been outstanding. Whether or not he believes in any of the things he winds up doing is another question, but he has actually done very good stuff for the state. But he has compiled an environmental record that is no doubt, no joke, to the left of Joe Biden's, because Florida has a very big environmental lobby. A lot of people don't realize that. Here, it's not, it definitely is not a free for all when it comes to doing anything which relates to the environment. One could be out trying to build a house and some snail that's thought of as endangered is discovered on the property, and the state shuts the whole thing down for months until such time as the matter can be properly ascertained by the relevant authorities, blah, blah, blah. So the matter not to be ascertained as matter until the matter can be decided upon by the relative authorities, excuse me. So that's really what it is. And it works for the state. And DeSantis has played no small role in keeping the state as green as possible. The problem is, It's not a problem for Florida, but it'd be a problem for the people I'm about to address. If he went to Texas, which he'd have to do, or to the Rust Belt, which he'd have to do, trying to appeal to the people there, he unilaterally banned fracking and offshore drilling. He might,
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't
absolutely.
realize that. Wow.
Absolutely. Yes, I've read the executive order. I was one of the first things he did. So it's good for the state, but he would have a tough time saying, well, this is bad for my state, but it's good for you. Uh, Typically, the Trumpian voter who is, marginally Republican or actually independent does not like what it perceives as double talk. That's probably the thing that alienates it most. Trump, whatever one wants to say about him, he's very clear about what he believes, and his voters, this is what endears him to his voting base. DeSantis is not clear about what he believes. He changes his position a lot, and he often issues non-answers, whether it be on abortion, which he did in the debate with Charlie Crist, a debate that he should have won, but it was a draw, which was pathetic because Crist is no great debater. But then DeSantis also was very non-committal about having received the vaccine, and he actually changed his approach to the vaccine. He was a big fan of it very early, and then he became a vaccine skeptic. So I mean, this
Oh,
is
man.
yeah, DeSantis he's not a bad governor. He's actually been a very good governor. I voted for him. However, if once taken to the national stage, there are going to be problems. People cannot expect another Ronald Reagan or a Trump that's sort of cleansed of Trump's inevitable self-created problems. DeSantis has his own issues. So I think Trump running is a good thing because I think he is the only candidate that can inspire turnout, which could really get the Republicans to 270, aside from perhaps Glenn Youngkin. And I need to keep saying that because I do think Youngkin absolutely has presidential
Hmm.
potential. I would not vote for Youngkin over Trump because I don't want a long, drawn out primary that only benefits the Democrats. I would say just, end the primary early, make it a clear Trump victory so we all can move along rather than, having a sort of thing like Hillary and Bernie. That's my point of view, but I certainly don't dislike Youngkin. And I think he's much more clearer and consistent than DeSantis is. And he's also someone who has a record that is more limited than DeSantis's, obviously, because Youngkin wasn't in public office before he became governor of Virginia. DeSantis was in Congress for not 10 years, excuse me. He was there from 2012 to 2013, technically took office in 2019. So that's I can't even believe I'm getting. It's 6 years. 6 years. He was there for 6 years, and it's not bad, but it's not great that he has all of these votes that are in his past. It's not like I think he did stuff that should really be held with great shame, but certainly there are things there that would be used against him in a primary, and the Democrats would then reuse that for the general election. Or even if it weren't used against him in the primary, they'd use it against him in a general election. His voting record, Youngkin being a governor that's not been in office for all that long, but he's did a very good job. Much less to use against him. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot to use against Donald Trump, much more than DeSantis or, of course, Youngkin. The thing of it is that it's basically all neutralized by now because Trump is so well known. He's an open book, and people just sort of shrug it off. He gets away with stuff because of that no one else would. And also it's because he's such a well-known public figure before he ran for president. So yeah, Trump running in 2024 is a good thing for the GOP, I think. Now, as far it's not a perfect thing, though. I certainly don't think that he's some sort of savior for the party, although he did deliver it out of a terrible, terrible, terrible time before he like I said, the Romney Ryan era was really, really bad. And it's good that Trump moved the GOP out of that. Now, as far as his announcement, I think he wanted to keep it as subdued as possible. He did go on a bit. I would have told him to keep it to 30 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all. But as we all know, with Trump, he goes off script. He does ramble. This is part of his honesty, though, that endears him to people because he just says what he believes. And you really, if you disagree with it, one can't say that he's BSing you because it's what he believes, and that's that. He didn't make any flubs, which is good. But I didn't think his announcement speech was bad at all. It just went on for too long. I was waiting for him to say something that would be, oh God, not this again. But it didn't happen. But it should have been 30 minutes, and that should have been that. He should not have made it more high energy. That would have been a mistake. Obviously, at this point, the Republicans only getting this narrow House majority, and the Republicans getting whipped in many other places in the midterm. uh, Trump being too high energy would have looked a little strange. It would have looked like he didn't take note of what just happened. You certainly got the impression from what he said that he did take note of what happened, that he was cognizant of the GOP's poor showing, and that he wanted to do stuff to remedy, that, or to prevent such a thing from happening again for 2024. So I don't think his speech was bad, but it was intentionally lower energy, and it would have been good for him to really, act like he's at one of his rallies. Something else I thought that was great, he passed my essential test of his speech, which was, is he going to bring up this abortion issue and say, I defended life, I got Roe v. Wade overturned? If he did that, then I would think, oh no, this is going to be, very bad before it really begins. He didn't. He didn't talk about abortion at all. That was major. Because obviously that means he got the message. He was talking about
Yes.
abortion, not constantly, but he would bring it up at rallies and such, obviously during election season. And I think he got the message that this isn't a good message. And I was very pleased by that. And it shows me that he would be running on more important stuff in 2024. I also think that the issues he did bring up were very good. It boiled down to cost of living, to quality of life. And these are the issues the GOP needs to run on, not, get wading into the weeds of these long time moral abstractions like abortion. So yeah, Trump's speech definitely could have been better. It was not bad though. It was subdued, which I liked. And I have to say that the optics of it at that massive ballroom at Mar-a-Lago were absolutely outstanding. That was it looked like not a presidential announcement speech, but like somebody announcing an upcoming coronation. It was it was really well done. I said they should hold the RNC, a scaled down version of it at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, they
Make
should.
That would be beautiful. I really think it would be nice.
Yeah, I think, I agree with so much of what you said. And I have to say, like, I was pleasantly surprised in some respects, just I'm gonna call it the Trump magic, in that, I'd really thought up until this point, I was like, DeSantis is probably the smart choice for the GOP. Trump is the entertaining choice. DeSantis is the smart choice. But I have to say, as I was watching the announcement, I started to feel that Trump magic, the energy. I was like, oh my God, Trump is back. This is gonna be great. And you start to get a little nostalgic about, the time when Trump was still in office, and just how insane the media went, and how Trump would just like brush them off and not pay them mind and not give in to them and not back down. And I said, you know what? A lot of people are going to be nostalgic about this,
Mhm.
and they're going to remember why they liked Trump in the first place. And he's been, it's not that he hasn't been out there. He's been on True Social and stuff, but Trump really has not been out there in the media,
Mhm.
except if people are seeking him out. And I do
Exactly.
think that it's reminding people why they liked him in the first place. And I think above all else, Trump is a symbol for a lot of things. He's a symbol for disruption. He's a symbol for an outsider coming in, and he's a symbol of someone who isn't going to take the establishment nonsense or the woke nonsense. And I think that really will be the thing that pushes him to the nomination if he wants it, at the end of the day. I do still question if Trump really wants to do this or
Mhm.
not, or if he's doing it for his own ego,
Mhm.
which I think that we cannot dismiss that possibility
Mhm.
because it's Trump. But I think it's going to be entertaining, if nothing else, and I'm looking forward to it. I also think that Chris Sununu is going to throw his hat into the ring for 2024. And to be honest, nothing would please me more than to watch Chris Sununu lose in New Hampshire, because I do not think he would win against Trump or DeSantis.
Uh, no, I agree, and I don't dislike Chris Sununu, by the way. But no, I agree that he would not win against Trump. It would be ridiculous for him to run. I don't even know how many serious opponents Trump will have. So people say it's going to be a crowded primary. I think that what they're going to do is wait between now and New Year's and get not the BS public polls that we see, which are absolutely terrible in
Oh
this
God,
cycle as
they were
well.
so bad, so bad.
Awful. This is the third cycle in a row where they've been just completely missing the mark. And they're actually pretty bad. And now they come to think about it, 2014 as well. But anyway, but the fact of the matter is, people say, "Ooh, this public poll shows DeSantis leading Trump by 0.2 of a percentage point in such and such state." No, those are the polls that matter. The polls that matter are the ones that are taken privately. They're highly accurate, even though they're not perfect. And I think that various potential challengers to Trump are going to be commissioning private polling between now and New Year's to see just what sort of hold he has over the GOP. And if the hold is not big, I mean, the hold is going to be there one way or another. It's just a question of how large it is. Then I think you see more people running against him. But if the hold is inconsiderable, which I imagine it is, maybe it's like 30% or so that wouldn't vote for Trump. I don't think you're going to see many opponents to him at all. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be an especially boisterous primary season. There will be some people who run against him just for name recognition, probably. But I don't know. I mean, I could be off here. This is not a prediction I can make with any great degree of accuracy. Obviously, it's way too early. But I think that I get the impression that Trump is not going to have a very difficult primary season. If Sununu ran against him, that would be unfortunate, but I think Sununu definitely would lose to Trump. Sununu should have ran for the U.S. Senate this year instead of,
We all thought he was going to. Yeah, we
I
were
did
all
too.
surprised. Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know why. Why? Because obviously it opened the door for that maniac Bulger. So it's really nuts that Sununu didn't take his chance to advance his political career. He could have won. I think it would have been a narrow victory. Now, obviously, hindsight being 2020, I would have thought he would have had a massive victory before the election, but after it, now I think he probably won by like 2 or so points. But that he didn't run was a big mistake, and I don't think he's going to be able to advance his political career by taking on Donald Trump.